Once again, TYT calling out people who are actually on the left, actual anti-imperialist journalists. In this case, Max Blumenthal asked a critical question of Cori Bush during what was otherwise, very cordial interaction with her while she was out, protesting this eviction moratorium expiring, and somehow Max asking this critical question was him harassing Cori Bush and how he's a fake leftist, as you can see from this title. I mean, again, she's okay, I guess, with politicians never being asked any type of critical question. She's all for giving obviously softball interviews to war criminals like she did with Madeleine Albright at the Munich security conference, and she's just not willing or wanting to speak truth to power ever. And just because somebody's a politician, you got to be really, really nice to them so we can continue to cultivate that relationship. She's just, I hate to call her access journalist because she's not a, journalist, but she's an access personality influencer, and here she's going on this crazy rant against Max Blumenthal.
Fought hard and actually succeeded in getting the eviction moratorium extended. That eviction moratorium, of course, was expired on July 31st. The Biden White House acted the most by the political theater. Wanted it to end. He wanted what Cori Bush did, but more importantly, how egregious it is that throughout her time sleeping out on the Capitol steps, she was being endlessly harassed by the same people who refused to let go of the force the vote nonsense from literally 8 months ago. A political
So it's force the vote nonsense, but by having Cori Bush sleep outside the Capitol steps, that was effective performative theater. So, and that could have also been effective performative theater, forcing the vote. Like, no, sorry, not gonna vote for you unless you bring the Medicare for All to the floor for a vote, Pelosi, Mama Bear. But so Ana Kasparian's in support of that type of performative theater because the politician that she likes was doing it, but because these other people were in favor of this other form of political theater, leveraging their political power, she's not okay with that. How does that doesn't make sense?
That is now completely irrelevant. The political tactic was supposed to be this pressure among progressive lawmakers to hold their vote, refuse to vote in favor of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House until she promises to bring Medicare for All to a House vote, to a House floor vote, I should say. Now, the squad, progressive Democrats, decided that they didn't want to use their political capital on that because of a number of different reasons. They were using their political capital for committee seats. They were using
it to get absolutely nothing of substance.
Political capital for carve-outs when it comes to pay-go. And they also knew that using their political capital for a floor vote that was going to fail, meaning that they would not get Medicare for All, just wasn't working.
Whatever. I mean, people obviously knew it wasn't going to pass. The idea was to actually see who actually supports it out of the 100+ co-sponsors,
And ever since they made that decision, they have been hounded and harassed by people who in different contexts didn't really seem to care too much about Medicare for All. People like Jimmy Dore, for instance, who supported Tulsi Gabbard in the last Democratic primary in 2020. Tulsi Gabbard wasn't in favor of Medicare for All, but he was totally fine with that. Now he's pretending like Medicare for All is the only policy that matters. So much so.
Well, it is a policy that really matters. tens of thousands of people die each year in the U.S. because they don't have health care. Medical bankruptcy is a thing in this country because we don't have universal health care. We're also still very much in the middle of a pandemic. So yes, it is one of the most important issues.
Warrants constant harassment toward AOC and other members of the squad.
Because again, what AOC, the squad, what are they doing to actually get people health care in the U.S.? I'd say fuck all at this point. So it's worth criticizing them and calling them out on this hugely important issue. But again, Ana Kasparian doesn't want to speak truth to power. If she ever has access to these people, guarantee it's just going to be softball interviews, not actually trying to hold their feet to the fire in any way, not engaging critically with them and what they've done since they've been in an office. We've seen softball interview to war criminal Madeleine Albright. First question to Madeleine Albright should have been if she actually was a journalist with journalistic credibility, would have been, Madeleine Albright, do you still defend the answer you gave, saying it was justified 500,000 Iraqi children dying because of U.S. sanctions on that country in the 90s? That should have been your first question. Obviously, it wasn't.
So I bring you this next video, which features part of this group, Max Blumenthal, who is part of Grayzone, but is in cahoots with the whole Force the Vote movement, essentially harassing Cori.
He's in cahoots because he's actually willing to speak truth to power and because he supports politicians actually fighting for the things that they claim to support. So yes, he's in cahoots.
Put out a short video of his interaction with her. Here's how it went.
And again, this isn't the whole interaction. He was actually saying before this, you can look up the whole interaction. There's other videos of him interacting with her, and he's actually, very supportive, saying how he's glad that she's out there, how they wish there was more people, etc. So again, this wasn't just the extent of him interacting with Cori Bush. But nonetheless, here's
an intense debate about the role of the squad and why the squad didn't leverage its vote for the speaker for Medicare for all vote, and why the squad, the margin's so narrow in Congress, why the squad didn't leverage its vote on the stimulus to get a $15 minimum wage.
So she started answering the question, and at some point, one of her staffers or someone who knows her got involved and kind of whisked her away. And that led to all this backlash among some components of the so-called left on Twitter. Oh my God,
It's funny that she considers herself part of the left when she is propagating, U.S. lies about, the Syrian chemical weapons attack in Duma, the OPCW cover-up. She's been bashing the homeless lately, saying they're just committing all the crime and, these drug kingpins. She'd have to look into whether she could cover Julian Assange, softball interviews to Madeleine Albright, smearing Aaron Mate. The list goes on.
Serve the best interest. She's there in an effort to prevent people from getting evicted from their homes. How about focus on the topic at hand instead of...
Who gets to decide what is the topic at hand? Isn't kind of Medicare for all always an important topic? Isn't getting people health care in the U.S. always an important topic? When would be an okay time to ask them about that, Ana Kasparian? I think if she's being honest, she would say never, because they're these great politicians. They can do no wrong, and I want to stay in their good graces so I can be on their good side and have access to them.
Focusing on a failed nonsense strategy from literally 8 months ago.
That's your perspective, and again, you're entitled to that, but that doesn't mean other people aren't able or willing to actually speak to politicians and get their answers on stuff. Jesus Christ.
And the reason why I say it's a nonsense strategy is because it's irrelevant now. It's irrelevant now. Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House.
Yeah, that doesn't mean people still can't talk about it, and who is it irrelevant to? People still don't have fucking healthcare. And again, maybe if you weren't such a hack, you would have been supporting that tactic at the time. And who knows, maybe we could have moved this position forward.
Push for something, they didn't do it. So are we just going to focus on that for the rest of these women's political careers? Or are we going to give them props for what they're trying to accomplish right now?
It's an and situation. You can give them props for what they're doing, and you can ask them about other things. Shouldn't be that difficult of a concept to understand.
Oh, on an imminent issue, people getting kicked out of their homes in the middle of a pandemic. Are we going to focus on that at all?
People not having health care in the middle of a pandemic, also kind of a big deal.
And what's fascinating is when that short video was released, everyone was like, oh, look at that. She's so dismissive. But, you know, Grayzone isn't known for providing a lot of context in their video content. I know from firsthand experience with them.
But she can't provide any evidence of that. Again, just all of these accusations and smears, but she can't provide any evidence, just like when they smeared Aaron Mate.
They love to take things out of context. They love to...
Okay, provide an example of that. She can't. Grayzone has so much more credibility than TYT.
Pick little snippets of videos that they've produced. They love intimidating people who dare to speak out against them like I'm doing right now. But guess what? You're not going to shut me up. Now, there was someone who was also involved in this effort with Cori Bush. She was there the whole time. Kristen Mink tweeted about the interaction after there was all this backlash toward Cori Bush and how she handled that question from Max Blumenthal. She says, no. I was there, and this framing is completely wrong and disingenuous. Friday night, there was a guy who ID'd himself as from the People's Party. Ilhan, meaning Ilhan Omar, chatted with him for a long while and went to follow him on Twitter. There, she found offensive memes about the squad. So this is a quote tweet from Max Blumenthal's tweet where, you know, he claims
so
that...
Then she goes on to...
Well, you can read the tweet for your...
Talk more shit about people that were there, people from the People's Party, Steph, Zambrano, etc. But again, I think it's so interesting. And again, I think just a clear case of projection. Fake leftist, because that is what TYT... That fits them to a T, for God's sakes. I mean, supports imperialism, supports anti-homeless campaigns, supports the criminalization of people, you know, of homeless people, people without housing. And, you know, got to look at that Katzenberg cash and how that's, you know, impacted the way they view stuff. But again, like, Max was doing his job. He was being a fucking journalist, something obviously Ana Kasparian doesn't know anything about. Again, giving softball interviews to war fucking criminals like Madeleine Albright, when Max Blumenthal was actually out there on the streets trying to hold these politicians' feet to the fire. And again, we need more people like that. We saw him out there calling out Adam Schiff for being a, you know, warmonger, just being there for a photo op. So again, I think this is very accurate what Aaron Mate is saying here. In a friendly interview conducted while promoting Cori Bush's action, Max asked her a critical question about leveraging the squad's vote for progressive goals. Unsurprisingly, Anna declares that to be harassment as part of the deranged rant about the Grayzone and Jimmy Dore. Yeah, that was a pretty deranged rant, right? Anna's rant is full of falsehoods, of course. The substantive one is her declaration that issue Max asked about leveraging the squad's vote is irrelevant, 8 months old. Here's New York Times now highlighting this very issue. How is it not relevant and not worth asking? Again, because she doesn't want these politicians to be asked or convenienced about anything, because that's the role that she sees journalists in quotes like herself playing, is just, you know, cultivating these relationships, building, you know, their brand. Look who I'm interviewing on at your MSC, Madeleine Albright, Ian Brenner. It's Cori Bush. Let's not ask her anything of substance. Let's just highlight all of the good stuff she's doing right now, and let's not be critical at all, because we got to get along. TYT, right? Home of progressives. The Democrats spare majorities. There you go. I mean, Jesus Christ. And then I think I had what was Blumenthal's reaction to this. Days after attacking progressive legislators for not being tough enough on the homeless pop, suburbanite neocon Ana Kasparian accused me of harassment for politely asking Cori Bush one critical question in an otherwise friendly interview shut down by her angry staff. And again, you can look up the whole interview that he did. I think his characterization of it is accurate. That was the only real critical question he asked. The rest of it was pretty conciliatory and positive to her. And again, here's that rant she went on not too long ago, bashing the homeless people. And again, she didn't used to have that attitude. Primo Radical did a good video about that, exposing how she used to call out these anti-homeless laws for being so inhumane and disgusting as
I do think that there are progressives, I don't know if it's progressive policy, but progressives in places like California who have made terrible decisions. And so one of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And if, we have a homeless problem in California. We have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people, they should be allowed to camp out. Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available and individuals will say, no, I don't.
What is she talking about? Access to fucking shitty, overcrowded shelters where there's all kinds of rules and regulations like curfews. You can't bring people in there, you can't associate with your friends. Jesus Christ, this Katzenberg cash, it's a fucking thing, right?
Want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing, and so as a result, I would rather camp out.
Again, by public housing, she's talking about shelters, which if they do actually have capacity, not the fucking best fit. I mean, Jesus Christ. And again, during a pandemic, you need to give everybody a house, not put them in these fucking shitty, overcrowded shelters. Again, still very much in the middle of a pandemic.
Progressive lawmakers are like, we should allow them to camp out. And you know what happens?
Yeah, they should. And then they're going to go committing crime, running drugs.
Crime happens. Open air drug markets happen. And it's the truth. These are the facts of the matter.
This is fucking TYT. Went from defending the homeless to now demonizing them, and now talking shit about Max Blumenthal, who actually is willing to speak truth to power, unlike the access journalist hacks at TYT. Jesus Christ. Yep, Kasparian goes on to accuse the Grayzone of deceptively editing video of her, but doesn't provide any examples because there are none. Was this clip of her anti-homeless suburban backlash or tirade deceptively? Oh shit, dude. So good. But it's Blumenthal. It's Blumenthal and the Grayzone. Those are the real fake leftists here, not the hacks at TYT who defend imperialism and US war crimes and hate the homeless. Those are the real leftists. It's the fake leftists at the Grayzone who actually have, journalistic integrity and whatnot. Oh my goodness. Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. All power to the people. Peace. Much love.